Hello and welcome to Inside Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international issues in depth. Japan and the Kingdom of Bahrain enjoy exceptional bilateral relations and constant mutual cooperation on various aspects. This year, the two countries are celebrating their 50 years of diplomatic relations amid infinitely huge potentials for the development of joint collaboration due to the firm commitment of both leaderships to boost ties, strengthen friendship and broaden partnerships across various areas. To talk more about that, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by His Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan to the Kingdom of Bahrain, Mr. Masayuki Miyamoto. Welcome back. Joining me here in the studio is His Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan to the Kingdom of Bahrain, Mr. Masayuki Miyamoto. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much for, first of all, giving me a chance to speak about the bilateral relationship between our two countries, the Kingdom of Bahrain and Japan.
Yeah, a relationship that is very, very long standing, actually. First, we'd really like to congratulate you as the Kingdom of Bahrain and Japan celebrate their 50th anniversary of establishing their diplomatic relations. Can you tell us more about the history of these relations and what were the stages of development that were witnessed?
Thank you very much for the congratulations. We are celebrating the 50th anniversary this year, but actually our bilateral relationship is going back to more than 50 years, actually dating back to the beginning of 20th century. I think around 1920s or something, some Japanese companies had already contacts and interactions with Bahraini business people. And it is well known that the first Bahraini oil was exported to Japan in 1934, almost 90 years ago.
Yes.
And the volume of export was, I remember, 28,000 barrels of crude oil. The volume was not so huge, but the significance of this shipment was huge.
Yes.
And because that was the initiation of the former relationship between the two nations.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning that this shipment was initiated not by the Japanese government, actually by one of the Japanese commercial companies at that time. So it indicates how great role that the private sector can play to initiate or develop other bilateral relationship.
Definitely.
And after the independence of the Kingdom of Bahrain, our relationship has developed around basically three pillars. I mean, the first pillar is relationship between the Japanese imperial family and the Bahraini royal family. And the second, of course, between the two governments. Mm-hmm. And the third pillar is between the two peoples, two nations, in a variety of fields.
Yes, definitely.
And concerning the exchange of visits, the highest level of visits, 1994, almost 30 years ago, the current Japanese emperor and empress, when they were crown prince and princess, visited Bahrain just after the wedding ceremony, their marriage.
Amazing.
That was a sort of the Shahr Asal, so
yes.
honeymoon. And when I was received by His Majesty the Emperor before my coming here last year, the Emperor remembered his visit to Bahrain very well. And he asked me to convey his warmest greetings and messages to His Majesty the King Hamad and Crown Prince Salman. Thanks for their great hospitality given to them during their visit. And after that, in 2012, His Majesty the King Hamad visited Japan, and the Crown Prince visited Japan in the following year, 2013. And the same year, the Prime Minister, the late former Prime Minister Abe, visited Japan. And 2019, the Crown Prince Salman again visited Japan to attend the enthronement ceremony of the current emperor. So those mutual visits or exchange of visits of the highest level indicates or shows the strongness and solidness of the relationship between the two countries.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you value the keen interest of Bahrain and Japan's leadership? As you've mentioned these many incidents, how do you value their interest in bolstering the relations between the two countries?
Yes, needless to say that we are very much aware of the strategic importance of the Middle East in general and the Gulf region in particular. And we and the leadership, Japanese leadership, is very much appreciating the great role that the Kingdom of Bahrain has been playing since a long time ago to maintain peace and stability in this region.
Yeah.
And also Japan has been advocating and promoting the vision of free and open Indo-Pacific region. And this vision is, I believe, that shared by the Bahraini government. Yeah. And in this regard, we are very proud that the Japanese self-defense forces, maritime self-defense forces, has been participating in the combined multilateral forces. In Arabic, I think the قوة الواجب المختلطة 151 by providing officers and vessel and aircraft, and to contribute to the secure, the safe and free navigation in this region.
Yes.
And thirdly, we are very much aware that the Bahrain is a very free and very tolerant society, and Bahrain people are very good at interacting with the non-nationals, I mean the outside world, since a long time ago. So the Bahrain is attracting the attention from all over the world. And I believe that there are many rooms or chances for our two countries to develop the relationship in many fields, not only in the economic field, but also in other fields as well.
When you talk about these relationships, I want to go back to the official visits that happened. As you have mentioned, His Majesty King Hamad visited in 2012, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Prince Salman visited in 2013. How, and of course the Empress and the Emperor visited a long time ago, but what can you tell us about these official visits? How do they result in further enhancing the Bahraini-Japanese relations?
Yes, particularly among the visits, the most important one was the visit of His Majesty the King Hamad, 2012, and His Royal Highness Crown Prince the following year, and also the visit of the late former Prime Minister Abe to this country, to Bahrain. And I think those visits they created a foundation to not only deepen the relationship, but to, how can I say, widen the scope of cooperation, and also to diversify fields of cooperation.
Yes.
And maybe I will tell about some detail about this diversification or widening. But just recently, actually last month, the Japanese Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs visited Bahrain, and he had meetings with the Foreign Minister and the Southern Governor and the Finance Minister, and he also made a signature of agreement on investment between the two countries. I think this agreement will encourage or promote the bilateral relationship in terms of the investment. And also, I think we believe that this visit, this visit was the first visit by a high-ranking Japanese official to Bahrain after the outbreak of COVID-19. Yes. So that was the first the official visit since 2 or more years ago. We believe that this visit is considered as a very good restart of exchange of visits between the two leaders, two governments.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When we look at the expertise of both countries, can you talk about more or tell us more about the fields of cooperation between the Kingdom of Bahrain and Japan?
Yes. Actually, our bilateral relationship covers many fields. Just for example, in the diplomatic and the security field, we started the sort of the annual political consultation and the security dialogue. I think since the visit of His Majesty the King to Japan, and we have annually this kind of consultation and dialogue in Manama or in Tokyo.
Okay.
This is one example in the field of diplomacy. And secondly, in the field of economy, business and economy, a number of Japanese companies have been participating in many projects of the Bahraini institutions, organizations like BAPCO or ALBA or SOLB or other organizations. And of course, the Japanese government has been facilitating and supporting those business activities. And thirdly, for example, in the field of science and technology. Actually, we are very happy that the Bahrain has made a success to launch its first satellite in space at the beginning of this year. And that was in cooperation with the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA. And we can expect that the bilateral relationship between the Bahraini Space Agency, Space Science Agency, and the Japanese agency will be developed and widening a scope of cooperation. And another example in the field of academic activities,
Yes.
Since decades, a number of Japanese archaeologists came to Bahrain, visit Bahrain to make the excavations or research or surveys.
Yeah.
And now we are trying to institutionalize the cooperation of this field between the BACA, the Bahrain Authority of Culture and Antiquities, and the Japanese organizations or universities concerned. So we hope that the further development in the field of archaeology, and archaeology might contribute to the promoting the tourism or industry of this country. And just in addition to that, in terms of the education, actually we are providing a scholarship to the Bahraini young people to study in Japan for master course or doctorate course. And the number of scholarship is only one annually, not much, but actually this scholarship is very generous, which is covering almost all the cost for foreign students to study in Japan.
Wonderful.
So we have we received many Bahraini young people who are interested in Japanese scholarship.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Having that diversity and having that even available is a big thing for anybody to apply to. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan actually endorses a very wide range of events that will be held in Japan and in Bahrain specifically, as commemorative events celebrating the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. What can you tell us about those events and preparing for them, as well as the embassy's plans for this occasion?
Yeah, as I said, that on the occasion of the 50th anniversary, our Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs visited Bahrain, as I mentioned, and also as the embassy, we held already the first round of Japanese Film Festival at the beginning of this year, and we are planning to have some other cultural events in the coming autumn or winter. including the second round of the Japanese Film Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, and it is worth mentioning, and we are very grateful that the Bahraini Foreign Ministry had already arranged some events on this occasion. First, the online conference between the two ministries, and also tennis matches between the Japanese community and the Bahraini tennis players.
Wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
Sports has always been a very active way to mix the culture. With an official and special logo, the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and the Kingdom of Bahrain is celebrated this year. Can you tell us more about the logo's significance and how does it represent the friendship and constant cooperation between the two countries in various fields? You gave us the logo. I'm going to bring it on for you to explain it more to us. So this is the logo of the 50th anniversary.
Yes. We are very happy to have such a very beautiful logo. And actually this logo was designed by Mr. Iseki Takao, who is a Japanese citizen living in Kyoto. Kyoto is one of the Japanese ancient capitals. And we see that this logo is made of only three colors, white, red, and green. And we can observe that the national flag of both countries, Japan and Bahrain, are made of only two colors, white and red.
Yes.
And my personal interpretation is that the red symbolizes passion, yes, or vitality or energy, and the white symbolizes purity. Yeah. So I think those might be the values shared by two nations.
Yes. And the green.
And the green, this is the very famous tree of life,
yes,
the symbol of the Bahraini nature.
Yeah.
And of course, I think this tree is around 400 years or very old tree. And I think this tree symbolizes the eternity, abadiya, of our bilateral relationship and friendship. And also the green, the color of green is very important, particularly in this age, in this period. And the greenery indicates the importance of greenery, and also the protection of the global environment.
Yes.
And this green indicates that or demonstrates the expectation that both Bahrain and Japan will be front runners, yes, to preserve the greenery and preserve the global environment.
And growth.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Ambassador. Well, to continue talking about this, what have been the greatest developments and launch initiatives of the Japanese embassy in terms of consolidating the bilateral relations? And what are the embassy's future plans to further enhance them in all fields?
I believe that among our missions of the embassy, I think basically three missions. Mm-hmm. The first is connecting between the two governments, the Japanese government and the Bahraini government. And this relationship is not only because of two ministries of foreign affairs, but also between the two authorities concerned, between the authorities concerned of two countries. For example, concerning the cooperation in the space agency, science and technology. For example, we have been facilitating the communication between the Bahraini Space Agency and Japanese Space Agency. Yeah. Or, for example, in terms of the academic activities, we as the embassy have been facilitating the communication and contacts between the Japanese organizations and also the BACA, Bahrain Authority. And or between the facilitating the relationship between the University of Bahrain and the Japanese universities, etc. And I think the second mission might be the connecting between the Bahrain government and Japanese private sector here in this country or
Yes.
in this region. For example, I was asked by one of the ministries to find out any Japanese private companies which are interested in receiving the Bahraini young people as interns.
Yes.
And I talked with the Japanese private sector here, and one of the Japanese companies responded to it, and started to already to receive some Bahraini young people as interns. So this is the second mission. And third mission, actually, in general, we as the embassy are always encouraging the Japanese private sector to participate in more projects or contribute to the development of Bahrain further, and giving them the information or the moral support for them. I think those three are basic missions of Japan, and we have been doing well, I think, so far.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, when we talk about education, before we go to the next questions, when we talk about education, what are the many opportunities that Bahraini students have in Japan when it comes to the expertise of the Japanese educational system and everything? What are the tendencies that you see the students try to go into when they come to study at Japanese universities?
As I said, that actually Ministry of Education is giving a scholarship annually to Bahraini young people. And I think in the past, almost 20 or 30 Bahraini people studied in Japan by using this scholarship. But I think if there are any young people, Bahraini people, who are interested in studying Japanese, they can go there and start to study by themselves first. Yes. And after that, I think there are several scholarships, not given by the government, but by institutions or private sector to support their study. Yes. So we are very happy if the more the Bahraini young people are going to Japan and study Japan, not only language but also culture or history and society, and to be how can I say, Hamzat Wasl al-Bridge between the two nations in the future.
Exactly. So if they want more information about where and what to study, they can come to the embassy and receive that information.
Yes, we are very much pleased to receive any questions or any students who have young people who have inquiries about the education in Japan.
What can you tell us about the Japanese community here in the kingdom? What are the key sectors that Japanese citizens in Bahrain are currently engaged in?
Yes, currently we have around 150 Japanese citizens, Japanese residents here working for basically 19 Japanese companies. Okay. And all of them are the managers or directors or engineers. And they are working in several fields, manufacturing or construction or financial sector or trade. And this those companies had relationship with the Kingdom of Bahrain even before the independence of the kingdom. Wonderful. So the relationship between the Bahrain and the Japanese private company is very deeply rooted.
Yes, amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
When we talk about, and this will be our final question, when we talk about the many fields of cooperation that already exist between the Kingdom of Bahrain and Japan, from your point of view, what are the main fields that can witness even more or upcoming cooperation between the two countries?
Yes, as I said, that there are very strong cooperations between the two countries in many fields, and including not only business and economy, but also security, or science and technology, or academics, or environment, or how can I say, tackling the international issues or global issues with mutual concern. So we are. There are many rooms or possibilities that the both countries work not only for themselves but to work for the other regions or other areas globally. And of course, I can't name names. I mean, in detail in this time, but I believe that the both countries will go to deepen and widen its relationship further to meet the aspirations and expectations of the two leaderships and the governments and the two peoples.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for being with us today. At the beginning of the show, we congratulated you on 50 years of
Thank you very much.
relationships with Bahrain. We would also, before we leave, like to extend our condolences on the sad demise of late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was a loss to a very big political community and to the people as well. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And we'd like to thank you, dear viewers, for watching us, and we'll see you next week in another episode of Inside Edition.